Sometimes we think, there's nothing we can do about it. It's just me. It's just what I'm made of. It's how I'm built. It's how I operate. And again, if that's serving you and if that's working for you, rock on. But if it isn't, maybe it's time to have a look. Maybe it's time to pull back the dressing and just have a look at the state of the wound. What options are available to you to help it to start to heal properly from the inside out. Sometimes it's really frightening to pull back the dressing and to see what's there, to see the terrible state that it's in. Some people think, where the frickin' hell do I start? Maybe you've tried. Maybe you've pulled back the dressing and tried to put a couple of different ones on. You know, maybe you've packed it, you've tried a different approach, and maybe it's worked for a certain time and then it hasn't. And that's great, it's a start. But ultimately we all get to that point where, you know, that wound really starts to affect our life and it takes over. We can't hide it anymore. The pain's too much to bear, you're really suffering. It can be a really lonely journey and it can be exhausting. You know, trying to tend to something like that on your own is really, really tiring. It's lonely, it's isolating. And I believe that we can only do it for so long. So if we don't, or we can't tend to that wound on our own anymore, or we choose not to, we say to ourselves, okay, I'm done. It's time. I'm ready to look this straight in the eye and really get this sorted for myself, because I matter. Where do we go to for that next level of support? And I often say to people that, you know, therapy isn't necessarily your first line. You know, you may just need to sit with the fact that you've pulled back the dressing for the first time and you've really started to have a look at this and get real about it and get really truthful about it, about the state that you're in, how much impact this is having on you and other people. And just be with that for a moment. And maybe gently asking yourselves, where to next? What's going to be my next step? What's going to be the right next step for me? Maybe it starts with your nutrition, for example. You know, are you putting enough nutrients in your body to actually heal the wound? So the nutrients may look like a podcast that you start to listen to, a book that gets recommended to you by a friend or your partner. Maybe it's reaching out to a mate or a girlfriend or your mum. And sharing with them what's been going on, the truth of the situation, asking them just to listen, just so you can process what's been happening. And I find that when we start to do that, when we start to really get truthful about the situation, all sorts of resources come to the surface, both within us, because we are incredibly resourceful, even though sometimes we think we aren't, and externally, like I was saying before, you know, the help of a friend, the ear or the shoulder of your partner or your mum or someone who's earned the right to be with you and hear these things from you during these times. And externally, maybe it's a course that comes into your radar. Maybe it's a book. Maybe it's a webinar.